Good evening, students. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I hope that you all are well at your home in these days of lockdown and this coronavirus crisis. Okay, and last time, students, we have discussed about the chapter "What is Democracy?" Class 9, chapter number 1, Political Science. What is democracy? Why democracy? In this chapter, we have discussed a lot of things about the definition of democracy. What are the features of democracy? Okay, today we will discuss about the merits and demerits of democracy. Okay, so in this chapter let's take a recapitulation of the chapter what we had what I had taught earlier to you. So first of all, discuss about definition of democracy. So what is democracy? Democracy is a system of government in which peoples elected their or choose their representative directly or indirectly. That is known as democracy. Okay, democracy is of two types: direct and indirect democracy. Direct democracy is the democracy in which the peoples directly ruled over their country. Okay, like example in Switzerland. Okay, and indirect democracy is the democracy in which peoples elect their representative to rule upon them. Okay, that is the popular form of democracy, and mainly this form of democracy is mainly practiced all over the world, throughout the world. Okay, and that is a popular form of democracy, called indirect democracy. Okay, example like India, USA, UK, all these countries have democratic type government and indirect type of government. Okay, so let's discuss the features of democracy. There are four major features of democracy. The first feature was the government is based on the will of the people. Second, free and fair election. The third topic is one person, one vote and one value. And the fourth feature of a democracy is rule of law and respect for rights. So these were the four main features of democracy we have discussed earlier. So let's start our next topic in this chapter: merits and demerits of a democracy, of a democratic government. Okay, as I told you earlier, that democracy is a system of government in which people elected the representatives. In ancient time and in medieval times, during most of the countries have followed the monarchical type of system. Monarchy. What is monarchy? Monarchy is the system in which a king ruled a particular country or a state. Okay, in most of the countries they had followed the concept of monarchy, but in the 17th or the 18th century, in most of the countries like France and USA have taken the first step to establish the democratic government in their own countries. Okay, from there onwards, democracy has evolved from one continent to another continent, and in today, if we talk about the relevance of democracy today, most of the countries, maybe it's 2/3 of the total world countries have followed the democratic type of government. Okay, so everything which come in our relevance, that is have two types of effects. First is positive and negative. Okay, everything has two aspects, positive and negative. Okay, so that's a democratic likewise. Okay, so democratic government has also a positive aspect and a negative aspect. So first of all, we discuss about the negative aspects of a democracy. Okay, that negative aspects negative aspect means the demerits of a democratic government. Okay, so the demerit of democratic government, firstly discuss the first demerit of a democratic government is it is an expensive government. Okay, so democracy is an expensive government. Why we call it as expensive government? Because in a democracy there are so many things which going on, like elections. The government expend most of its revenue, most of its income to convene the election, to carry out the election. The next major income spent by the government in a democratic government is to pay the salary of the respected officers or the dignitaries of the Indian government. Okay, and they have spent lots of money on the public welfare programs like Manrega, like Antyodaya Yojana, or different types of yojana which are launched by the government. Okay, so democratic government is a very expensive government. In the majority, the government has spent loads of money in these type of activities. Okay, so that's why we call it as an expensive government. Okay, the next demerit of a democratic government is that it is a rule by majority. Okay, so democratic government is also called a rule by majority. Means a democratic government is the government which rule over the people, and a democratic government is elected by the majority principle. Majority principle means in a in a parliament, if a party have a majority of members, then the respected party have the right to form the government. But if he does not have the majority, then he have not the right to form a government. And basically government have majority of members in the parliament, so government have also the right to pass the rules and regulation according to its own will. Okay, sometimes they in many countries we see that in a democratic government many parties became majoritarian parties, so that they can rule the country in a different way, in a negative perspective or a negative way. Okay, that proved very harmful for a democratic government. Okay, so rule by majority means the government rules by majority of its member, because government have majority, so it have the power to enact any rules and regulation. Okay, because to pass any law, a parliament have to pass any law, a party needs to by third majority to pass any law. And basically a party have, if a party have majority, then it can easily change any law, it can easily enact any law, and it can made easily any law. So that's why we called it as rule by majority. Okay, the third type of demerit of a democratic government is unstable government. Okay, unstable government means the democratic government is also called unstable government. Why we call it as unstable government? Unstable government, it is called an unstable government because most of the times democratic parties don't get clear majority principle. Okay, basically in a democratic government there is a principle of multi-party system, and sometimes the all the parties which are engaged in elections do not get clear majority, and due to that they can't form government, because there is a principle that if a party wants to form a government, then he must have a majority of members in the parliament, so then they form the government. Okay, and if the party have not majority, then he have not the right to form the government. Okay, so sometimes two or more parties combine together and form a government called coalition government, and sometimes when a dispute arise, then this coalition breaks. Okay, after breaking, the two parties separate from one another, and this create a unstable and instability in a country. So that's why we called it as unstable government. Means a democratic government sometimes unstable because the parties could not get the majority of seats in the parliament. Okay, इसका मतलब ये है कभी कभार पार्टीज को क्लियर मेजोरिटी ना मिलने की वजह से वो पार्लियामेंट के अंदर गवर्नमेंट फॉर्म नहीं कर पाते हैं, और जो गवर्नमेंट फॉर्म नहीं कर पाएंगे देन दे हैव नॉट द राइट टू फॉर्म द गवर्नमेंट. जो गवर्नमेंट नहीं फॉर्म होगी देन दे डोंट हैव द राइट टू रूल. ओके, द फोर्थ demerit of a democratic government that it reduce the moral standard of people. Okay, basically in a democratic government most of the parties and most of the government engaged in corruption. Okay, engaged in corruption, they usually demands more and more money to complete their work, so that the work could get easily by the officer, and for the completion of the work the officer demands more salary and more money as a corrupted money. Okay, so that's why we call it that it reduce the moral standard of the people. Means ये क्या करता है कि डेमोक्रेसी में क्या करता है, मोरल कैरेक्टर आपका गिरा देता है पीपल्स का. क्या होता है जब कोई पीपल आपका काम कराने जाता है गवर्नमेंट के पास, ऑफिसर के पास, तो उसको वहाँ पैसा देना पड़ता है, रिश्वत देना पड़ता है, तो उससे लोगों का भी मोरल स्टैंडर्ड गिरता है. सो दैट इज द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ reducing the moral standard of people. So that is practiced in a democratic government, and that is a demerit of a democratic government. Okay, so the last demerit of a democratic government, corruption. As I told earlier, that corruption is a very destructive thing which is in a democracy. Okay, corruption have all way from upper to the lower bottom. There is we see in everywhere corruption. Okay, so these are the five demerits of a democratic government. Firstly, we have discussed it is an expensive government, then it is ruled by majority, it is unstable government, it reduces the moral standard of people, and the last one is it leads to corruption. Okay, these are the demerits of a democratic government. Now we are talking about the merits of a democratic government. Okay, basically democracy, as its by its name suggests, demos plus crazy. Demos means people, crazy means rule, the people's rule. Okay, so democratic government is the government which is, firstly, democratic government is a responsible government towards its citizens. Okay, basically if we talk about a democratic government, then we can say that it is responsible to all the citizens which are residing in a country, whether it is a rich or whether it is a poor, okay, whether it is a worker, whether it is an officer. Okay, it treats each and every person equal and respectfully. It gives equal chances and equal opportunities to each and every person who are residing in a particular country. Okay, the second merit of a democratic government is it gives rights to all the person. It gives right to all the person means, in a country there are two types of people, that is majority and minority. Okay, the constitution of any country give equal rights to all the peoples. Okay, whether it is a majority member, whether it is a minority member, so it gives equally respect and equal rights to all the persons. Okay, the third merit of a democratic government is it is a it is an accountable government. Accountable government means it is responsible for its action and decision taken by it. means अपने हर एक एक्शन, अपने हर एक डिसीजन और लॉ के लिए, दैट इज, ये क्या होता है, रिस्पॉन्सिबल होता है. जितना भी काम करता है ये, वो क्या होता है, रिस्पॉन्सिबल होता है, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी निभाता है. क्यों? क्योंकि अगर रिस्पॉन्सिबल नहीं होगा, देन इन द नेक्स्ट इलेक्शन पीपल हैव नॉट इलेक्टेड देम because of their previous record. Okay, so that's why we call it as responsible government. They are responsible to the peoples of their constituency. Okay, so the next topic is it is based on negotiation. Okay, negotiation means, negotiation का मतलब ये है कि ये गवर्नमेंट ऐसी है कि जिसमें क्या होता है, सारे के सारे जो वर्क होते हैं वो नेगोशिएशन के बेसिस पे होता है. नेगोशिएशन मीन्स इसमें जितने भी काम होते हैं, ऑल द वर्क्स शुड इंक्लूडेड ऑल द ओपिनियंस ऑफ पीपल. मीन्स इसमें क्या होता है, नेगोशिएशंस के साथ आपका सारा काम होता है, कंसेंसस के साथ काम होता है. पार्लियामेंट में डिफरेंट मेंबर्स आपका होते हैं, अलग अलग कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी से वो रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, तो डिफरेंट व्यूज प्रेजेंट करते हैं पार्लियामेंट के सामने. ओके, एंड दे हैव डिफरेंट ओपिनियन टुवर्ड्स अदर थिंग्स. ओके, इसके अलावा इट ऑल्सो प्रोटेक्ट्स द राइट्स ऑफ अ majority, minority, as well as the social groups of any country. It also protects the rights of women. Okay, and democratic government is the government which improves the decision making process. Means it includes all the peoples, all the persons, all the sections of a society to give their opinion and to give their views on a particular topic. So these are the merits and demerits of a democratic government. So in this chapter we have read about many topics and many concepts, and I hope that you will understand all the topics of this chapter. And if you have any doubt regarding any topic, then you can ask me or you can call me also on my number. Okay, so let's take a recapitulation of the chapter. First of all, we read about the definition of democracy. Then we would go to the features of democracy. Then we discuss today about the merits and the demerits of a democratic government. Okay, so these are the basic concepts of chapter, and I hope that you will understand each and every aspect and concepts of this chapter. So if you have any doubt, then you can ask me through your message or through your call. Okay, thank you for watching me.